Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Herring Ruby on Rails class student orientation. Glad that we got our introductions out of the way, and hopefully you've met some fun faces and nice people to be able to be in class with. I am unabashedly corny, so I like to always start out the student orientation with the explanation of why is your class called the Herring class, and some little factoids about herrings. So herrings are fish that can move up to 10 times their body length per second. They're very fast little fish. They also have excellent hearing and are known to be called the silver darlings or the silver of the sea. So of course I have to, put that into action in some way, shape, or form. So like a herring, use your excellent hearing to listen to mentors and classmates as you learn. Use your whole self to propel yourself further in your understanding. And now that I have given you the obligatory corny message, we can go ahead and get rolling with the actual crux of things. And just a factoid, all of our Ruby on Rails classes are named after fish. All of our React classes are named after birds. All of our Node classes are named after mammals. So that's why you all are being named after a fish. Okie dokie, moving right along. So for those of you that are new to the program, just really quick, I wanted to explain sort of who we are, what we do. We're a nonprofit organization based out of North Carolina, but we do offer these online classes to be able to help individuals get an education in web development so that way they can start a career in web development. As you'll see in a moment, our organization is broken into two sides. So we have the classes side, which you all are a part of. We also have a development shop side of our organization, which I'll talk to you more about as the class goes on, because you'll have an opportunity to apply to be an apprenticeship on the development shop side of our organization if that's something that interests you down the road. I always like to highlight our core values as a organization. So we focus on inclusion, community growth, and impact. All those words probably mean fairly similar things to one another as far as being open, being welcoming, being supportive of one another. By doing so, then you help build community. And then you learn personal growth as well as help others grow personally and professionally. And we hope that in the end, everybody makes an impact, whether it's mentors making a positive impact on your learning, you making a positive impact on society as you go forward and help diversify the tech industry and create some really awesome problem solutions out there within the tech industry. And you're also always welcome to come back as a graduate to volunteer time or funds to help the program continue on if you're interested in doing so. So I'd just like to highlight those. If you ever want to talk more about them or want more information about our program and the way that we meet our core values and our mission statement, we're always happy to talk about that. So as I mentioned, we're broken into two parts, the CTD Learn side, which are the free intensive classes in web development, and the CTD Lab side, which is the development shop. We do have real world clients that are having real world products being built for them on our lab side. If you're curious about what we're building, you can go to codethedream.org/portfolio, and that gives you an idea of some of the projects that we have built or are building. All of the apprentices that work on the lab side are paid apprentices, and they do get health benefits, actually just general benefits. I think they're also open for like 401ks and that kind of stuff. So it is a nice way to kind of ease into the industry. Most of our projects that we build on that side are built by apprentices, but every project is overseen by a project manager who is a senior developer. You also likely will have a junior developer on the project as well too. As I mentioned, we'll talk more about the practicum and we'll talk more about the apprenticeship, which are the next steps after you graduate the advanced class coming down the pike. So about half to 2/3 of the way through the class, we'll have a meeting where we talk about all those things, give you plenty of information on it, and go from there. But you can also always message me with questions if you have any. All right, so let's talk about this path, since I've been throwing around words like practicum and apprenticeship and developer and all that kind of stuff. So all of you are here because you have either completed intro to programming class with us already, or you have showed us pre-work in your pre-work application process that demonstrated that you're ready for the advanced classes. So the advanced classes all run concurrently. We have your all's class, a Node class, and a React class. All of you are starting June 12th. And you're going to finish class October 18th will be the last day that we have any kind of final project presentations related with your class. That's a Friday. You'll have a little bit of a gap there, and then anybody who wishes to participate in practicum, and all of you are strongly encouraged to participate in practicum, that will run from November 11th to January 31st of next year. Practicum is where you form small groups of about 4 or 5 students to a team. You'll have a mentor that oversees your team, and it's a way for you to really kind of practice and get familiar with what it's like to be a team developer. So having multiple people working on the same body of code, but working on different bits and pieces of it, and just kind of get comfortable with the tools that they use and sort of work out any kinks about how does that workflow work and what does it look like and what's the process through all of that. And it just helps you reinforce everything that you learned in class because you'll be building things in practicum using the technology that you learned throughout class. Again, we'll give you more information about practicum as we get closer towards that date and time frame. After practicum, you are welcome to apply for the apprenticeship position if that's something that is interesting to you. It is open to anybody with W-2 work authorization in the US. So if that doesn't apply to you, please talk to me. I can connect you with our program director so that way we can let you know maybe other opportunities that we know of within the industry to start getting your feet wet. But otherwise, if you are applying for the apprenticeship, you would potentially start as an apprentice as soon as March 2025. And if the apprenticeship isn't for you, or you're already just skill building and you know some development already, and you're just kind of adding to the skills of the developer that you already have, then you can be starting your career or advancing your career as soon as you are either done with the advanced class or as soon as you're done with practicum, whatever feels comfortable to you. Okay. Any questions up to this point about our organization or that past process that I just outlined that I can answer for anybody? Cool. All right. So I always like to highlight the class profile just so that way you know who all is in your class. It can, like I said, it can be feeling a little isolating whenever you're doing an online program to just sort of feel like you're up there in the cloud. Oh, I forgot to fill in the number of students, but currently enrolled, you all have 25 students. That number is going to be growing in your class because we have an intro class that is graduating this week. And so a number of them will be joining you. So your class will probably wind up having about 35 or more students in it. Of the currently enrolled individuals, then you all are spread out across 11 states. And I think we have an international student or two that's a holdover from when we were accepting international students before. So we're glad to have them be a part of the community as well too. For class participants, 64% of class participants are people of color, 76% are women or non-binary, 80% of class participants are from low-income backgrounds. Your average age amongst all of the students that are registered to this point is 33 with a range of 24 to 46. I like to highlight this because we have commonalities amongst our demographics. We also have differences amongst our demographics, but knowing and understanding where everybody's coming from can really open your eyes to new experiences and understanding others better, and it can help you come up with more innovative solutions. So talk to one another about what your experiences are like throughout life, share what your struggles are, share what your highs are, share what your lows are, and just get to know one another because you'll likely have some kind of cross section that you encounter with one another, but you'll also have a lot of beautiful differences too. Okie dokie, moving along. So our curriculum is consistent of lots of bits and pieces. So I like to kind of give you an overview of what the curriculum is consistent of to start with, and then we're going to dive deeper into all of these as well. So just like in an in-person class, you'd likely have a textbook or some kind of content that you're going over and reviewing. This is an online class in technology, so you're not going to have a textbook, but you will have lesson pages that are structured within your class website. So we'll give you a login. You'll log into the class website. It'll have your syllabus. You can click on the week to week and see what the lesson is for that particular link. All the lesson pages have the content that you need for whatever concept we're teaching for that week. Also, you will find content in your assignment instructional pages because the lesson pages kind of talk to you about big picture, this is what we're learning about, and then the assignment instructional pages are, this is how you build what we just talked about. So that covers your lesson material. Every week, you'll also have a coding assignment. Our weeks run Wednesday to Tuesday, so that way you have the weekend in the middle of your week and you're not scrambling and frantic and stressed out on your weekends trying to get things turned in by Sunday midnight. So Wednesday is when your class week lesson starts, and then turn in your homework by Tuesday, 11:59 p.m. your time in the evening. We know that things will come up and there might be a week where you're like, I can't get it in until Wednesday night. That's okay. Talk to Diana about it. or let your reviewer or your mentor know, so that way they know that things are coming along. You just had a busy week. So every assignment every week is going to have a coding assignment portion where you're actually building and writing code based on what you learned in your lessons. But it's also going to have a mindset assignment. For those of you returning, this is going to look familiar to you. We do reuse the mindset assignments from class to class. Just revisit those concepts from your new lens, your new point of view within this class. So maybe you learned some new problem solving strategies from before, or maybe you learned some new debugging techniques from last time you were in class with us. So just revisit those from where you're at in your current journey. For those of you that are new, the mindset assignment is non-technical items. So it's going to be, like I mentioned, problem solving strategies, dealing with the imposter phenomenon that a lot of people in all industries, but especially in the tech industry, feel, and various things of that nature, where it'll be, read this article or watch this video that talks about a concept, and then answer some journal questions about, do I already have problem solving strategies in place? How do I ask people for help? Am I comfortable asking people for help? That kind of thing. So those assignments are all submitted on the same assignment form. You'll get a view of that here in a minute when we dive a little deeper. For mentor sessions, those serve as kind of like your lecture for class. So rather than having a structured, everybody show up at the same day and time for a giant group lecture, then we have a different format to our classroom, to our online classroom. We provide you with a schedule, and there are multiple group sessions that are on throughout the week. And you can take a look at your schedule, take a look at the schedule of offerings we have, and pick what ones work best for you. So it doesn't have to be every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. we have a session, but if the Wednesday at 6 p.m. session works for you, then you are definitely welcome to come to it every week. That's just an example. I don't know for sure if you have a session Wednesday night at 6 p.m. But so the group sessions are what you're going to want to attend as sort of like that lecture classroom, touching base synchronously with an instructor portion. You also have one-on-one sessions available to you. So volunteers will have a calendar schedule up, so you can sign up for times with them where it's just you and the mentor, instead of you in a classroom trying to vie for instructor attention, or whatever the case may be, or hide from instructor attention, as some people probably do or have done in classes before too. All right. Community. So everybody has to have a way to be able to communicate, especially when they're spread out across 11 states. So the community basis for how we communicate to you all, any announcements, how you can communicate with each other and or connect with volunteers who are our mentors, is through a program called Slack. If you're unfamiliar with it, that's okay. We're going to be sending you an invite to our workspace. There's some videos that you'll have access to get comfortable and get started in it. But in general, it's basically like a messaging system that you can kind of group or cluster people who have similar connections within your organization together. So you'll have class channels that just have you all, your class mentors, Diana, myself, and Lillian or other Code the Dream staff members pertinent to the classes involved in that. And then a final project is how you're going to demonstrate your competency throughout the course. You do have several weeks at the end of class, and you'll be building this final project. The project's going to be of your own design, so you'll submit a proposal about a month or so before class ends to say, here's what I want to build, and your reviewer will take a look and approve it or let you know some tweaks you need to make for it to meet rubric requirements. But rather than a final exam or anything like that, you'll do a final project to be able to demonstrate what you've learned throughout class. Any questions? Let me go back there. And any questions about sort of the general information? We are going to be doing a deeper dive on each of these items here next. But
Marilis, I have a questions.
go ahead,
Right now, all students added to a Slack channel or not?
Not yet. Yeah,
Not
by
yet.
the end
Okay.
of the weekend. So by Sunday night, if you're new, then you'll have received a Slack workspace invitation. If you're a returning student, you should have access to those Herring channels by Sunday night at the latest.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I'll keep on rolling and start getting you all visuals on these things. So part of our dev shop product building tasks, projects that they're working on, one of them was building a learning management system in LMS for us. So the classes site that you'll be using to access your learning materials is something that apprentices who have graduated out of our program, just like you, have helped build under the guidance of a project manager. And that's what you'll be using as your primary focus. For those of you who have had to work with Blackboard for any online learning before, this is a much better experience, in my opinion, than Blackboard. That was always a headache for me when I was doing online learning. But anyhow, so let me give you a visual on what the Learns app looks like so you can see what that looks like and talk a little bit about your curriculum. Let me jump over to there. So you will sign on with your GitHub handle. Like when you go to log in, it'll say login through GitHub. And GitHub will just verify, is it okay for Code the Dream to access your GitHub? And you say yes, and then you'll come into a dashboard. If you are dual enrolled or if you've taken previous classes with us, then you'll see a little drop down over here to be able to select whatever class you want to be taking a look at. But the dashboard covers the chronological progression of your class. So for example, the giraffe class that we have going right now is the Node Express class, and they are about 80% of the way through their course. They'll be wrapping up in a few weeks. We are working on building up the assignment section, so we hope to have that working at some point in time during your course. It'll give you an overview of what assignments have you submitted, were they marked as successful or were they marked as need revisions. So that way you'll be able to see what did I submit, when did I submit it, was it good? And then of course a preview of your schedule to be able to see what's coming up, your current week and upcoming weeks. And then at the bottom of the profile, we'll have links for you to be able to join Zoom for those group mentor sessions. You'll be able to jump easily to the Slack announcements or Slack discussion channels. So that way you can connect with the community. If you're having any Slack trouble or anything like that, or you just want to email Diana some information, you can click the class email and it'll open up a window for you to be able to email Diana at the herring@codethedream.org class email address. And you'll also have access to your mentor session sheet, which will show you the schedule or the calendar so you know what group sessions are when, and so that you can access the gallery view to see who your mentors are for any one-on-one sessions. So that's your dashboard. When you actually go into your course, then it will take you to your class calendar page primarily. So it will give you an outline as far as what are you doing when. You'll notice on the week before class starts, June 5th to June 11th, we have this Learning to Learn module that you'll want to complete. There's nothing coding wise, there's nothing technical that you're learning that week. All it covers is our student handbook. You'll take a short little 5-question student handbook quiz to make sure that you're clear on who you can turn to for help and sort of what procedures or protocols are for class. And then it'll also have you set up a study plan for yourself. So it's this really awesome template that Lillian built with a weekly calendar. That way you can carve out the time in your week to be able to say, okay, I'm working these times so I can fit in classwork here, or I have to take care of family at this point so I can fit in classwork here. So you'll do that June 5th to June 11th and turn that in so that way we know that you've got a plan organized and that you know what the resources are throughout class. And then on June 12th, when class officially starts, that's when you'll go ahead and begin your lessons. You are welcome to start them earlier if you want to. That's totally fine to do. And you're also allowed to work ahead through class. So if you know oh yeah, July 3rd is going to be a crazy busy vacation holiday week for me, you're welcome to do that lesson early if you have the time to do it to keep yourself on track. So feel free to advance through at the pace that works for you. But definitely use your start and stop times for each lesson as guidelines to help keep yourself accountable and on track for when you're going to be getting lessons done and turned in. Within the actual page itself, it'll outline learning objectives on a given lesson for you. It covers all of your lesson materials, so you'll want to read through there. There's some tutorials or helpful resource information there, so you'll check that information out. And then your coding assignment will give you instructions as far as what to do. So usually it's fork or clone a repository and then start building out your code. So it gives you instructions on how to do that. And then to submit your assignment, then you'll just click the Submit Assignment button on the bottom there. It pre-fills which lesson you're turning in. So you just select your name and then you fill out the rest of the information on the form and turn that in. For weeks where you're submitting your project proposal for your final project, or at the very end when you're turning in your final project, the submission form is still the same for all of those things. We just have it change the questions that you answer for those particular weeks. But otherwise, week to week, it's all going to be pretty standard as far as, did you have any questions? What's the link to your work? How did you feel about this assignment? Are there areas that we can help you with? That kind of a thing. Questions, or does anybody want any additional visuals on the tools as far as the class website, assignment submission form? Cool. If any of you are repeating the course from before, so we used to use Treehouse, Team Treehouse, as the predominant source for our lesson materials, but they have not updated any of their content since several versions ago. So we have foregone that. There is no Treehouse in this course anymore. This is all content that we built out ourselves using resources that are available on the net. So hopefully it will be still a good experience for you getting through course, getting information that is up to date and accurate. Yeah, Marcia, you have a question. Go ahead and unmute and ask.
Yes, I saw on the page where you turn in the work that it talked about your mentor sessions and also the mindset assignment. If you're working ahead, do you just not turn it in until the date that you're supposed to turn it in?
No, you can still turn it in earlier if there's going to be mentor sessions you're intending to participate in. So like if you always show up to Dylan's mentor session, you can go ahead and plug his name in as that being one of the sessions that you were attending for the week. Neither of these are required, so you can also leave them blank if need be, especially if you're working ahead. Or you can just put in the person that you did see or meet with for that particular week. And then there was a second part of your question. Remind me what it was.
The mindset assignment, is that part of what's turned in also?
Yes, yeah. So it didn't show up on this lesson. I need to tweak the mindset and kind of readjust it for the newer content. I'm hoping it'll show up on one of them, but I might not have put it. Yeah, I haven't put in any of them yet. But the mindset assignment questions will show up down here. I just need to update it and kind of revamp it. But it'll be, you know, a couple of paragraphs of information. It might be a short like TED Talk video or a short article to read. And then it will be a series of journal questions like, you know, the speaker in the TED Talk was talking about problem solving strategies, and they mentioned these techniques. Are any of those techniques things that might be helpful to you? And so you say, yeah, this one would work for me and this is why, kind of a thing. So you would just plug that into the mindset response portion here. Did that answer everything for you, Marcia?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, thanks. Brandon, yeah, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I was just checking to see, should we have access to the portal right now? Because
Not
I
yet.
tried logging.
Yeah, you don't have access to it quite yet. By June
Mm.
4th, I'll have everybody structured on the back end, so that way you'll be able to have access. If you sign in on June 4th and you're still not seeing class information, it'll kick over for sure on June 5th. So feel free to check it out again on June 5th, but make sure that you can log in before that point in time. I'll be getting all of those structures set up in place for you between now and June 4th at the latest. And I'll be updating you all by email as I get you into the different systems and things on the back end. Any other questions hanging out there that we should cover quick? Oh, there was a question in chat. Let's see here. Oh, days and times for class. So that's a great question, kind of segues into the mentor session. I do not have your schedule built out yet because I'm confirming days and times for when the mentors will be having their group sessions, but we'll have the group instructor sessions listed as far as what day of the week and the time, who it's with. You'll be able to click to join the group mentor session here. We'll have that link to join the group mentor session in a couple of places. For example, it's on your dashboard for when you first log in down at the bottom here. And then it'll also be in your Slack channels as well. And then we also have the link to be able to see the one-on-one mentors. So at the bottom of this schedule sheet, which we'll have up in various places and we'll constantly be sending you the link to, you'll be able to click the link at the bottom here and it'll pull up the gallery view so you can see these are all the mentors or volunteers associated with your class. It'll tell you their names, pronouns, what time zone they're in. If they provided us with a biography, then you can read a little bit about them. And then to schedule a time with them, then you'll click here to schedule for that particular individual. And it'll bring up their schedule. That was a bad example because Josiah doesn't have anything open quite yet. I think Haley probably has theirs. Let's see. There we go. So like for Haley, they're available Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. You can pick the day, pick the time, and then you'll fill out name, email, if there's anything particular you want to cover, and schedule events. It'll email a confirmation to you. It emails a confirmation to them, so that way they know that you've got an appointment with them. And then you go from there. We will be having office hours to June 5th to the 11th. So you're welcome to sign up for time with Diana or myself if you want additional visuals on these. If you need help kind of navigating through these at all, we will be available to help out with those. Correct. Yeah, you will not be meeting as a class throughout the cohort. You probably will have some people who are on the same group session as you if their schedules align and you all are showing up for the same group mentor sessions from week to week. But you won't have a standard like you have to be here for Tuesdays, Thursdays at 6 o'clock or anything like that. Hopefully that hit a lot of the questions, but I'll pause for a minute in case there are any other questions hanging out there. And just as a reminder, the recording of orientation tonight, we will be sending out along with slides and information so that way you can review as needed. Yeah, Marcia, you have another question. Go ahead.
Yes, this doesn't apply to the class right now, but for the practicum, we are supposed to choose a team.
Yes, you'll be allowed to select your team. So as you get to know people throughout course, then, you know, kind of keep in the back of your mind, like, is this somebody that I might like to work with? And we go over the information as we get closer towards the end, usually about a month and a half to 2 months before the end of class. And we'll have a meeting with you and talk about, this is what practicum is, this is what you'll be doing, answer all those good stuff.
Okay. I was just wondering, if we are never together, how would we know who we want to work with?
Yes, a lot of it tends to be asynchronous. So there is going to be a Slack channel that you are grouped all together in, and of course in class channels, you're grouped all together in. As we get towards the end of class, then we'll have social mixers too, where instead of getting on to cover, oh, sorry, my batteries are getting low. Instead of getting on to cover content specifically just related to class, then it'll be a little less, you know, here's tech that you need to be learning, and a little more like, well, let's get to know each other and let's talk about what we like to build and how we like to build and how we work and that kind of a thing. I'm going to pause a quick second just to disconnect my headphones since the battery's dying on them really quick. If you have any questions, feel free to holler them out though while I'm doing this.
Am I still audible? Oh, okay, wonderful. Good. I wasn't sure how that was going to go down. Okay. Yes, so there was a question in the chat as far as a certain number of meetings, and that is something that we'll be covering here in just a minute regarding sessions. There are a couple other sort of lesson material topics I wanted to cover before we hit on mentor sessions. Oh, good. I'm glad I sound clearer now. Woo! Artificial intelligence, obviously it's a tool that's out there. It's a very powerful tool, but you know, with great power comes great responsibility, as the saying goes. So we just like to highlight in orientation good ways to use AI as a student versus bad ways to use it. So some helpful ways that you might want to open up your ChatGPT or whatever other AI device you prefer to use, is to have it make practice questions or quizzes for yourself. It can share time management tips about like, I've got this, this, and this I've got to do this week. How am I going to be able to fit this into my schedule? You can ask it for resources to study from. So say you're covering, I don't know, SQL topic 1 week and you're like, I want to learn more about this particular aspect of how that works. Then you can say, tell me more about that, or, you know, what are some good resources to find that information? And then language translation. So I forgot to mention earlier, but the majority of our student body, English is not their first language, which can really create a struggle when you're trying to learn a coding language in addition to having to translate it between spoken languages. So if at any point the text of the lesson is challenging for you to be able to work through, feel free to copy and paste all of that text into an AI device and say, translate this into my native language. And that hopefully will help sort of combat that challenge a little bit for you. Bad ways to be using artificial intelligence is having it do your work for you, because then you learn nothing other than how to use artificial intelligence to do work that you don't understand what it's doing or why it's doing that. Or to ask it questions just for the sake of getting an answer, because then you're really cutting yourself off at the knees as far as being able to have those critical thinking skills practiced. So we just like to highlight those because the tool is out there, it's emerging, a lot of people use it. It's important to learn how to use it in the proper ways instead of using it in ways that are going to be a detriment to you in the long run. So
I
those,
have a question.
oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. It's about the apprenticeship. I would like to know if there is a coding challenge to get into the apprenticeship.
There is, yeah. So we just started it this year. At the end of practicum, you'll let us know if you're interested in applying for the apprenticeship. To apply for the apprenticeship, you do need to complete the practicum. And at the end of practicum, then you'll be provided a coding assessment. It's an online assessment that you would take. We're not too strict as far as like you have to hit this percentage score in order to be considered right now, because it's a new tool for us too. And so we want to make sure that the tool is accurately measuring the skills that we need and expect our apprentices to have. So don't stress too much about the assessment. Look at it more as an opportunity for you to get comfortable with taking technical assessments, since that usually is a part of the job application process whenever you're applying for a job.
Okay. How do you determine the people you will keep for the apprenticeship?
Yes, yeah. So we look at how your performance was throughout class, your engagement throughout class. We also take a look at your need as far as if the job works well for you, as well as you being in that role working well for us. So we take a look at your technical skill level at the end of practicum. We look at some of those, they call them soft skills, but that's not really the right phrasing for it. But, you know, working well with a team, communicating well, so that way people are aware of what you're working on and what your progress is through it and all of that. Again, we'll go through all of that information in more detail in your next steps meeting about halfway through your class. But yeah, it's good to hit the highlights right now.
Thank you. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so we talked about coding assignment and mindset assignment. I actually messed up on my slide here. You do nothing with Replit in this class. It's only in GitHub, so you can ignore the reference to Replit on here. It's only GitHub from week 1 through to the end. And we had talked about the mindset assignment being articles or videos to read or watch, and then answering your journal type questions. So submitting assignments, I gave you a preview of what that form looks like. Let's talk about the workflow of what happens with that. When you submit your form, it's going to trigger an email to the reviewer that you're assigned. So that way they know, oh, okay, my students submitted their homework. They can go ahead and take a look at it. We ask reviewers to review your work as soon as possible. So you should see a turnaround on, you know, feedback and results on your assignment within 3 to 7 days of your submitting it. If you are not getting feedback within that window, let us know right away. So that way we can find out if there's been some kind of breakdown in our automation process, or if something's changed with your volunteers' availability or whatever. So talk to us if you aren't getting what you need at any point throughout class. When your review is complete, then the reviewer completes a form on their end, and it'll email you confirmation saying your reviewer has taken a look at your work, the assignment was approved, or the assignment needs revisions. Your notes about what needs to be revised will either be a comment on your pull request for your code, and or they might include it in the email directly to let you know, here's what you need to fix before you can move on. If you get an assignment needs revisions note on one of your assignments, then just follow the same protocol as far as go to the lesson page, submit the assignment, and then send in the link to be able to have them trigger an email and reevaluate the work that you have changed for that particular lesson. For session tools, all the group sessions are going to be held on Zoom, just like we're on right now. We'll be having announcements in the Slack announcements channel. So if there are any Code the Dream closures for holidays, if there's something important about the lesson you're learning this week that Diana wants you to be aware of as you're learning, she'll include that in announcements as well. So definitely check Slack every Monday and Wednesday for announcements of that nature. And also, usually mentors will let you know if there's been some change, last minute change to their mentor session schedule. You also might use either a Slack call or huddle or Google Meet if you're doing a one-on-one meeting, because obviously if the group session is using the Zoom call at the same time that you have a one-on-one session, you need some other place to be able to meet. So you might have either a Slack call or huddle or Google Meet as how you're meeting with a one-on-one individual. Your email confirmation when you sign up for that one-on-one slot should let you know. If you're not sure, or if it doesn't say that information, just reach out to the mentor that you signed up with on Slack and let them know, hey, how are we going to be meeting for our session? Speaking of Slack, let me give you a quick visual on that as well too. So Slack is going to be this tool. It has all of your channels in the panel along the side. You all will be in an announcements, a discussion, and an outlet channel. So that way you can get the announcements that Diana or that Code the Dream shares with you. Discussion is where you can post questions about the lesson or about the curriculum, or just general discussion questions at all, if there's anything that you want to talk to your classmates about. So that's a good way to asynchronously get to know one another like we were talking about earlier. And then the outlet channel also is going to be where you can communicate with one another. The outlet channel also has the React and Node students in it too. So if you're curious about either of those classes and want to pick the brains of people who are taking that class, you're welcome to chat up students that are in those other advanced classes that are running the same time as yours in the outlet channel. To see the particular channel, you select it and it'll have any of the information there. If you are in a group session and the mentor hasn't shown up and you're a few minutes in and there's no sign of them, you can also @ people. As soon as I get my keyboard behaving itself, you can @ the person and it'll ping them. So that way they know, oh, that's right, I've got a mentor session and I need to hurry up and finish what I'm working on so I can join my mentor session. So feel free to reach out to mentors if you get on a session and they're not there. You can use the announcements channel to do that. You can direct message each other too. So if you have a friend in class and you want to be study buddies together or whatever, you can use Slack in that way as well. Yes, you can use that outlet channel for networking with fellow students. The outlet channel is just going to have students, cohort leaders, and myself and Lillian on it. The discussion channel will have all of your mentors on it as well too. So if you're wanting to network with people who are already in the field that are mentoring for the class, then you'll want to use the discussion channel for that. Okay, so then let me jump on back to our orientation here. I always like to cover just some general notes. Some of this is pretty, intuitive for a lot of people as far as online etiquette, but a lot of you also might be new to online learning. So I just like to highlight some points in particular about practice patience and assume positive intent. That means if somebody typed something, they might not have said it the way the voice in your head is reading it. I do this with my brother all the time. He sends me a text and I'm like, what did you mean by that? And then I realize, oh, okay, no, he was just sharing that in a non-aggressive way. It just happens sometimes. So assume positive intent. If there's anything that you're unsure of, ask clarifying questions. So instead of me being like, why did my brother say that to me? I can say, could you elaborate on that for me, bro? So asking clarifying questions and communicating further is always helpful to avoid miscommunications or to fix miscommunications. When you're reaching out to volunteers or mentors for help, giving as much or more information as possible is really key. Sometimes if you're hitting an error, it might be something that's browser specific. It might be something that's version specific for something that you installed. So, this is the kind of machine I'm working on. This is when I'm hitting the error. This is the error it's giving me. This is what I've tried to fix it. All of those kinds of details are really, really helpful. So that way they have a starting point. Because if you say, I'm having trouble with this week, what about this week? Is it the lesson that you're having trouble with? Is it the assignment you're having trouble with? Is it just a really hard week for you personally? Like, share a little bit more information, and that will be very useful. Yeah, as Diana said, it's hard to give too much information, so share it all. And have mutual respect of time and life responsibilities. Like, you all are juggling a lot. You've got work, you've got family, and you're trying to learn on top of all of the stuff that is usual for most people. You're learning on top of all of that. So be patient with yourself. Be respectful of others' time. So if you have to cancel short notice, our volunteers get that you are in those circumstances and that might happen, but please communicate that to them. So just let them know, hey, my kid is sick. I need to cancel. I'm sorry for canceling last minute. I'll meet up with you next week or whatever. And we also let our volunteers know to have that same level of respect for you all as well too, and to share information if they're having to change their schedule on you. So a lot of that's pretty straightforward, but I like to hit the highlights anyway, just in case. Okay, so let's talk more about these mentor sessions. The group sessions, the weekly schedule that I shared with you, that will be populated with days and times. It won't just be an empty table like you saw earlier. So we'll have that information up there. Generally, the group sessions are the same from week to week. And if there are any changes, either the mentor will communicate that with you, and or Diana will let you know in the Wednesday announcements that she posts. You must attend one group session a week. You can attend as many sessions, group or one-on-one, as you want to any week. But you must attend at least one group session every week. If you can't make a group session because they're at days and times that don't work for your schedule, then you must attend a one-on-one session in its place for that week. So we want to make sure that you are engaged. We want to make sure that you have support. We want to see you and hear you because we like having you here. So, allow up to 15 minutes for a mentor to show in a group session, but be sure to ping them if it's a couple minutes in and they haven't shown up, because everybody's human. Sometimes you forget that you had something on your schedule. Group sessions typically are about an hour. Usually they're in the evenings throughout the week. You'll see what that breakdown is as we confirm and finalize that schedule closer to the start of the class. And the main objective of the group sessions is to either preview or review concepts. So if it's on a Wednesday or Thursday, it'll probably be more of a preview, like, here's what we're learning about this week. Let's talk about it. Let's start to dive into it. If you're attending a session on a Monday, Tuesday, that's the end of the week when you should be turning in your assignments. So it'll be more of a, okay, let's see how we've done this week and work through any hiccups that we have before we submit our work. In general, you should be learning good programmer habits as far as keeping your code clean, how to look for solutions if you're running into errors or have troubles, debugging techniques, all of that good stuff. Meeting classmates and getting any questions answered that you came across as you were learning. For the one-on-one sessions, those links are in the session schedule, as you saw, to be able to see the gallery view and click to sign up with a particular mentor. And those meetings might be on Slack, Google Meet, Zoom, so pay attention to your email confirmation. It'll be just you and the mentor, so you can get really focused help. If you're working ahead, if you've fallen behind and are trying to catch up, those one-on-one sessions are really going to be important for you to be attending. So that way you're getting the most out of either working ahead or getting the most out of getting the help that you need to get back on track. Again, if group sessions aren't meeting your times, then feel free to do one-on-one sessions. Questions about sessions that I haven't answered? Cool. So to rehash Slack, class announcements channel, check it every Monday and Wednesday. Diane will be posting announcements on those days. You can check it every day if you want, as people might post things in class discussion about questions that'll help you as you're working through your assignment or whatever. That discussion channel can be used for posting questions about lessons, assignments, or any kind of curriculum topics. Students and mentors are in both the announcements and the discussion channels. And then that outlet channel is for you to just share your wins, vent your frustrations. It's just students, cohort leaders, myself and Lillian that'll be in there. So feel free to be as you are, come as you are, and share what you need to there. For your final project, so I had mentioned that that's how you're going to demonstrate what you've learned throughout the class. You'll have several weeks to work on that final project, but as you're doing your lessons from week to week, be thinking about, if I built something myself, how would I use what I learned this week to build it? About 4 to 5 weeks before the end of class is when you'll submit your project proposal to make sure that the plan that you have for what you want to build as your final project meets the requirements. There is a rubric, a final project rubric that's listed, so that way you can review that and say, okay, I need to make sure that I have these features in the product that I'm building. So we recommend reviewing that final project at the beginning of class and then revisit it from week to week, or even, every other week or whatever, to see how much of this final project rubric do I know how to do already, or how will I use this for whatever project I'd like to build. To get to your final project, I want to just jump over to that really quick so that way you can see. So when you're in the Learns app, final project completion is going to, wait, nope, sorry, it's not on final project completion. It's a little bit different for every class. Final project setup. Sorry, I look at so many curriculum lessons, I always forget which one is where. This one's going to be in, here we go. Ruby on Rails final project rubric. So it outlines it all here as far as this is what your project should do. Here are some examples of projects that were built before. And then the requirements is the rubric. So all of these sort of checkpoint list items are things that you'll want to include in the product that you build. So take a look at the beginning, revisit it often to be able to make sure that you're on track with what you're wanting to do. Sorry for that headache of a mess of a background I've got there. Okay. Okay, we're getting near the end. I just want to cover some what ifs with you all. Thank you all for hanging with me. I know it's been a long evening with a lot of information thrown at you. So if you're working ahead or completing things, quickly within a given week, feel free to reach out to mentors to see about how you can stretch your skills further beyond just what the curriculum offers. Talk to Diana about anything additional that you can be doing there. Or just strike up a conversation, offer to help classmates that maybe are struggling with it, that you did okay with that concept. It's perfectly fine to help each other out like that. You need to turn in your first assignment by the end of week 2 at the absolute latest. So as I had mentioned, you'll have an assignment every week and you'll need to turn that in by Tuesday nights. So your class starts June 12th, which means your first assignment's due by June 18th. We absolutely have to have that June 18th due by the 25th at the latest. If we don't have your first assignment by the 25th, which gives you an extra week to work on it in case something comes up or you have difficulties the first week of class. If we don't get that first assignment by the 25th, then you'll be dropped from class. So definitely get that first assignment in no later than the 25th, but ideally by its scheduled due date of the 18th. If you fall behind, like, we get it, that happens. Class moves quickly. That's why we have those one-on-one mentors to help support you. That's why we have Lillian available to help you get yourself back on track with any kind of time management tools, or just to be a cheerleader in your corner and kind of champion you and help you get on track. You can always make arrangements to meet with Lillian or with Diana or with myself to kind of get your bearings reset and get a good plan set up for yourself. But we also know that sometimes the gap between where you're at and where you want to be is just too big of a chasm to be able to cross. That happened to me when I was a student with Code the Dream. So if life happens to the extent that you really just need to step back from classes, that's totally fine too. No judgment. Just reach out to Diana and or myself to let me know things have changed in your life and you need to step back. That way I can then let you know, here's opportunities for when you can jump back into it. If you don't turn in assignments, if you're not attending group sessions from week to week, if we don't see or hear from you for 2 weeks, we're going to assume that you have just given up on the program. So be sure that you are engaging every week with your class. We have found in our research that students are most likely to be successful if they're attending 2 mentor sessions a week. That's why we require you to attend a minimum of 1 session a week. And they can be any variety. So do the group sessions, do the one-on-one sessions, whatever works. If you are absent from sessions, then Diana or myself will be following up with you. If we're not hearing from you, then we're going to assume that you just no longer wanted to be in the class. You'll be removed from the class and you'll have to either reapply or you'll need to talk to me about a possibility of a deferral. Okay. Whew. A lot of information, right? Don't worry, we're here to answer questions. I've got the checklist and the next steps up As far as if you haven't registered for class, we can extend that out. Be sure to register by June 4th. That information was in the reminder email for orientation that went out tonight, but I can also hit you up with that link if you need it. Preview and bookmark your class website, GitHub, Slack, anything that might be helpful. June 5th to the 11th is when you'll be preparing that study plan, and you'll take a look at the handbook and take that little mini student handbook quiz. You also can meet with Diana or myself that week if you have questions or want better clarification on anything we've talked about tonight. I'll send all of this out along with the recording by email by the end of the weekend. So by Sunday night at the latest, then you'll have all of this information as far as slides, reminder of your checklist and next steps, the recording for the orientation, all of that good stuff. So as we reach out for any questions that are still lurking in your minds, I'm going to leave up the contact info page here. Feel free to jot down. Diana is your cohort leader. Slack is probably going to be the best way to reach her, but you can also email in case you have issues getting into Slack. Herring@codethedream.org is how to reach her. Also, I've got Lillian's and my names and emails down there at the bottom. So feel free to jot those down. And if there are any questions, unmute and holler at me. And Diana, if I forgot anything, feel free to unmute and add too. Ooh, that's a great question, Lavender. Yeah, I will mention to the mentors, they'll probably be using the channels to introduce themselves in that first week. So I'll let them know to please share LinkedIn's to be able to network and connect with people too. That's a great idea. Thank you. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, then have a wonderful rest of your week. Feel free to hop off the call. If anybody does have any lurking questions, I will stay on the call. I'm going to end the recording though.